So let's take a look at a bit these stages that I'm talking about by using an example. Yeah, let's take a specific, concrete, regular example. Imagine that you are in charge, you're the field coordinator or whatever name your organization uses, and you're arriving in a location after a needs assessment. Your goal is to open a new intervention. Imagine this intervention has 2 program components. One is setting up of multiple water points. Locations have been kind of tentatively pointed at in the needs assessment. And the second component, which is complementary, is a hygiene promotion, hygiene awareness type of component. Okay? All this because the needs assessment detected problems in the water supply and then high rates of diarrhea correlated. The target population is scattered in the bush. Yeah, all over. And there are 3 armed actors. 1 state, the army, and 2 other opposing non-state militia-type factions who are also opposing between themselves. But there has been no engagement with them so far on the part of the organization, our hypothetical organization, and the only engagement has been with the commander of the zone of the army. You're the one opening the program, so you have to think. First, before you start mapping out every single actor that exists in the territory, the first question is, what are my key strategic goals? What are my needs in terms of getting my operations, getting my programs up and running? Of course, there's a lot to do when you're opening, so there will be many at the same time. So what I recommend is this first stage, and this works as well no matter what stage your project is or your program. I'm just using this as an example. So you would write a list of these, all of your strategic goals and needs, and then you would put them into some sort of priority, right? So this is before you've done any actor mapping, right? Before. First of all, you write your key strategic goals, your operational goals, your programmatic goals, example. You can categorize them if you want. For example, resources and assets. You might need to rent offices, houses, buy stuff, of course. Recruitment, you will need human resources, right? You need stuff, basically. So for your operations, what do you need? You will need to think about transportation. You will need to map the routes that you're going to be traveling on. You will need banking. You will need cash flow. You will need to set up different things like that. So billing. So you go through your suppliers, whatever. Yes, you go through all of these things, and you write them more specifically than that. You don't just write transportation. I'm just giving examples. Salaries, energy management, etc., etc. Right? So you're saying, but you're being specific, not writing energy management. So if energy management is buy generators, right? You need to write, I need to buy, and how many generators you need to buy. What's the communication setup that you're going to need? And then what about the program, the intervention itself, the humanitarian intervention? What are your goals there? Do you already know what you're going to be doing? Or do you need to understand the contextual realities of the people? Do you need to recheck if some time has passed since the needs assessment about the places where you're going to put the water points? Yeah. What about access? Where are you with that? What about the diplomacy? Because you're in the area, who do you need to just stop by and say hi to? And then you need to put the more strategic goals of testing the needs assessment and the design. As I said, especially if time has gone by, you will need to test these things. I mean, if you're arriving in the place 3 or 4 months after the needs assessment, you need to review the where and for who. Yeah, you need to get a feeling for the motivation and reception of your presence and your programs. Who controls where? So these are still goals, right? Then what are the operating threats under that category? The armed actors. What levels of criminality are there? Where? Who loses? Who gains by what I'm going to do in this zone? Who are my potential allies? Potential threats? So I'm not answering these questions. I'm putting them as goals, right? So, and then I categorize them. Those, for example, last ones would be operating threats, right? So they're kind of questions I'm going to be answering. Yeah, you would put a category then next to each person. So, for example, if we're talking about buying the generators, you would write suppliers, right? Because you're going to be looking at suppliers. If you're going to be buying them locally, or if they're going to be bought by the capital or HQ, then you don't even put them, right? It's not an issue. Target population, assets, service providers, job market, etc. So you put categories, right? Categorize them however you want. The more specific you are with each goal, the better. You see the difference? You're listing your operational and your programmatic goals before you start to map the actors, because you need to know, okay, this is my goal. Who are the actors that I could be potentially interested in engaging with to serve that goal? Yeah? And as I said, this method works at any stage of an intervention. It's just about being specific about your goals. So you don't start mapping without knowing what you're mapping for. So if we go back to the generator example, if I have to buy a generator and I need to buy a generator, whatever kVA, and I put suppliers, then we'll see in the next step how you would go about the next step. So goals first, then you build your information. Let's see.